Welcome to the Pure Signal podcast, where we bring you the latest and greatest in AI, tech, machine learning, and all that fun stuff so that we can help you, yes, you and your business launch itself to infinity and beyond. My name is Ryan Medellin. I'm a manager in our marketing solutions practice. We're joined by Kevin Erickson and Phil Lockhart. We're back. We had a fun time. It's been a crazy week. We did something that we had an idea of taking this podcast on the road to reinvent and doing this mini series where we would host guests from all over, whether it be clients, partners, etc. And it was a pretty monumental task to do that. And there was a lot of planning and coordination that happened with marketing and the people team. And first, big shout out to them for helping organize all that to be able for us to get there and to do what we needed to do. But Kevin, I thought it went great, and it seems like people really received it well. And Phil, you had an episode that you joined us on.
Yeah. It's really good to see you again, and thankfully, thank you for being here. And Ryan, I thought it was a great week, and just from the podcasting, it was kind of fun and working through that. But really, more importantly, it was a really great way to celebrate some clients and just have the clients join. Really appreciate that from an chief perspective and from Quanta. And then Phil, your session with Duncan Pater and Justin was amazing, and just so excited about what's going on within the world of AWS and Omnicom. You and Duncan and a crew were cooking together, and so I think it's gonna be really fun. And then obviously yesterday with Emily and Marius was a really good conversation as well. And then we had some internal ones. You and I, Rio, some other folks kind of working through that too. So I just, it was really fun to be able to have real-time moments to be able to share, but also it's one of the cool aspects of not just this format of communication, but just really our job is when we can have just conversations with clients and colleagues that become friends, and we get to talk about how we can help each other with our endeavors. And I felt like we had a chance to do that, Ryan, over the last few days and hear those really cool stories while learning a few things.
For sure, totally. And people listening already know who we are. They've heard plenty of us. And Phil, I would love for you just to give us a couple of minutes, for those who don't know, which if anybody doesn't know that you're doing something wrong, right. But just give us a couple of minutes about you, what you do here at Credera, and what AWS means for you and being there.
So first, Phil Lockhart, I'm the Chief Digital Officer here at Credera. I've been with Credera for 15 years now. Helped build our commerce, our MarTech, and now working with the team on the ad tech, and heavy focus is on AWS. You and I haven't gotten to interact a whole lot, even though that's, where I'm really aligned to in that ad tech and MarTech and all that good stuff. So to get to spend the week with you and learn from you and just be able to converse and meet you where you are, right? If I have to chase you down to Vegas, I will. So yeah, that's great. And like the great thing is also just the big hockey connection.
Yes.
Which is amazing. I'm always looking for folks on that. And like we've always talked about being able to connect, and got to go to Vegas, I guess, to make that happen. But it was awesome, spending time with you and just in the craft, from the ad tech, MarTech, and just technology in general. Had an awesome time.
Yeah.
Phil, if you don't mind, just before we'll get into some of the stuff from the content and from AWS, but I want to say one, a thank you, and then also maybe give you a chance to kind of share a little bit. But thank you for you were there. You're driving AWS for us as part of your role, your Chief Digital Officer role. But, really, it was great to see that, really well organized. Really appreciate all of you and the work that your team put together. But it was also really fun to see, not just from a logistical, like Kim and all the really hard work of making it come together, but just seeing your key leaders in AWS working with our clients and working with vendors and different partners. And so thank you, but also just acknowledge the great work that you and your team is doing and to seeing that really come together in ways that hadn't before. So I'm really excited for the present and the future. But I just wanted to give you a chance before maybe we talk about AWS specifically, maybe just to talk a little bit about how you're organizing that, call out some of your team if that's helpful, kind of what they're doing as we're thinking about this for next year.
Yeah, no, I thank you. On the team regard, they're phenomenal. Was excited, about the AWS reInvent, but like for what the team was able to put together was exceeded expectations. It was incredible, and all the work that they did was phenomenal. From Kim to Trey to Camry to coordinate it. I think I underestimated a lot of just all the activity, coordination, and complexities of putting all those things together to make sure it all comes together well. And I think the big thing was they made sure everyone was well prepared with that. So it was great. So that was, just the coordination of it. But then you had key leaders, within that are leading the go-to-market for specific business domains and industries. We had industries represented, Andrew Stewart, we had, Cody Case, Emily was there. We had some of the business domain leaders from Matt DeBona, Rio, Alyssa. So it's cool to see that. And the main thing is like they had to come together with AWS, to make sure that the event went great.
And we had our UK colleagues were there. Justin was obviously there. And so just...
I was so impressed. I mean, the UK came in full force on that. So it was fantastic. Peter, Harriet, Marius, Ray. So thankful that they were able to take the time. It's a big trip.
It is.
To come in and get resettled within that, and to have that aspect to bring to the conversations of not only just North America, but the EMEA approach on it was great. I could tell that it got us into conversations that we wouldn't have had otherwise. So their presence was great and was impactful.
Yeah, and it just had a chance to interact with him, but specifically Marius, yesterday, he was just talking about how it was interesting for him, just how much they were able to connect with UK clients unexpectedly more than they were anticipating. So they were running around working 2 shifts, and what you normally do in Vegas, work 2 shifts. So maybe they were working 3 shifts, but
probably 3 or 4, right?
Yeah. But so that was really cool to see, and just to kind of continue to see really I think the momentum that's building, not only for us here at Credera and Omnicom, but also just the momentum that's building within the space, technology, and kind of AWS. And so it's cool. I mean, it's fun. It's fun to see where we're at. So, Ryan, where do you want to go next?
Yeah, I think we had a lot of really good conversations. And if you haven't checked them out, please do, wherever you get your podcast here on Pure Signal. We'll plug there. Just make sure you do, because we had a lot of great conversations. But I think this episode is really, the intent is to kind of pick at some of the things that stuck out to us. And, for me personally, reInvent, huge tech conference. And you expect to hear all these things about the tech, and we did, right? But to me, there was this flavor that I didn't really anticipate. And we heard this a lot in a lot of our chats was the human element, right? Everybody is talking about how tech is going to take over the human element. And it seems like the whole year has been spent learning about this tech, and it's gone so quickly that, towards the end of the year, all these companies are starting to shift and think about what is the people impact on this, not from a standpoint of jobs, but how do people interact with this technology, and how is there, Emily mentioned it, with Marius and Emily. I thought that interview was fascinating because you had tech and people, and typically I don't want to say they're far apart, but they're dealing in their own verticals. Those 2 pieces have come closer than ever now and have to be really in lockstep with each other. So to me, that I saw that flavor throughout the conference of everybody that you talked to. There was this, hey, here's the tech, but here's what it's going to do, and how humans can interact and work with it to continue to evolve, and be successful. So that was fascinating to me.
It's spot on too. Even just speaking with AWS in general, a lot of just their touch points have evolved as well. In the past, it's just primarily been on the technology side, CTO, CIO. Now they're having the largest bit of conversations with the CEOs, which is big for them. CMO, CEO are just 2 individuals or personas that have not been like the highest point, but they're all trying to figure out how do they utilize this technology to help improve their business. So they're super excited about that. And then they need partners like Credera to help them, bridge that gap. That's one of the specific things AWS is calling out as Credera, is that like, hey, just you being part of Omnicom, you help us bring that technology expertise along with the fact that you're working heavily on the marketing side to really bridge the 2 personas together, and stands out and makes it helpful in a lot of conversations.
Yeah. And that was a key theme too when y'all had the conversation with Duncan. He mentioned the people part of it a lot, and the adapting and the evolving. So to me, that was like, that means a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I think like just looking specifically at the technology, and it's one of the point of views that we have is that everyone wants to jump to this very quick agentic, solution, but you have to evolve to get there. So starting with the human assist, partial autonomy to autonomy, it actually makes that human factor really important, really elevated. You might be doing something a little bit different, but you have to make sure that you're enforcing and identifying what those guardrails are for those agents to actually be successful and stay within scope of it, or like, hey, let's shut off a couple pieces. Let's narrow the scope of the agent for that. So I think people are enjoying that. Something that they thought would just be completely make them irrelevant, almost in some cases makes them more relevant, more important.
Yeah. That's really good. I think it's just, so I'm listening to you guys talk. It's something it's maybe a simplistic and silly statement, but yeah, think about just the evolution of going from the human side to even to the executive side is that, you think about the journey of AWS, and just even if you think about just really simplistic terms of going back, okay, not that long ago, 10 years ago, right? It was on-prem to cloud. It was all about pipes. It was all those different elements, and again, the kind of really basic functionality to where now you're sitting there, and yes, it's AWS, but it's really around a whole ecosystem of products and tools and agentic and all these different elements of that. Just one of my, just even interest was walking around. I know I mentioned this in one of the web episodes, but is just seeing all the point specific solutions that are very, going to be run on AWS. They're going to involve elements of that. If you're going to have elements of your ecosystem that's in that, but it's really specific use case elements of that where it's just I think that shift from a technical backbone or a tool for developers is now really much, you can see a world where this becomes the hub of how you run. I know that there was some of the product that they were actually showcasing that kind of suggests some of that. Just you can see this kind of emerging to where it's a very different way how a company or an individual can interact within your kind of AI-based workflows that are powered by AWS.
That's right. I mean, over 200 solutions, on it. And that's one of the things they'll say is like, we built all these solutions and now it's shifting to, okay, how do companies actually utilize this to solve their problems? Yeah.
Because it came from a space of you used to be able to have one tool to do all what you need to do, but now it's that whole ecosystem that you mentioned that you have to piece together the puzzle to solve, it seems like.
Yeah. Yep. Anything else that suggests maybe just a different, going back to just even thinking about kind of the themes that we see or just from the guests, I think it was interesting just around I felt it's just more business conversations, right? I mean, one of the things that comparing this to some other different conferences like this that I've been to where it feels very either platform specific or very kind of, it's very around that. Like I just felt like even like I'm biased with my time. I spent more time with my clients that I did kind of potentially in all the different keynotes, but you had a great opportunity to meet clients. I know it was a big passion of yours. You wanted to be part of our experience and of really so I was actually going back to building what Marius said about the UK. I think we experienced that and my role now in North America and the US as well, but just even seeing that with our clients, it's a great opportunity to be able to have a chance to learn, but really to discuss in a way that kind of takes you a little bit out of the day job. And I think it's also probably helpful for the time of the year. I know there's a ton of stuff going on in early December, but you are thinking about other things. You're thinking about a slowdown of the year. You're thinking about next year, which some ways makes it a good chance for people to be a little more reflective.
Yeah, reflective and then projective, on how they're going to use this technology in the future. Yeah, I mean, for us, there are three things we were trying to do is continue to build that partnership with AWS, but then also grow our relationships with our clients and get better with their craft. Those are the three things that we're trying to do, get better understanding. And it's my third reInvent, and I can tell you dramatic shift since the last one. Because up until then, it was like, what's the new tool? What's the new solution? And as you were mentioning, it was like, it's still in the picture, of course, but it's like, well, how can that be used to achieve this? And see the very big push, like last year, 2024 is when AWS fully realigned everything to their industries. But the second piece that we're starting to see more is also just the business domain within those industries. Like, where are you applying it? Is it manufacturing? Is it supply chain? Is it marketing or advertising? Because there's different flavors of that for every single industry. So it takes a lot in order to bring that to life.
Yeah. Well, I know that this is such a theme that you've been pushing us, and as a classic MC kind of helping companies grow and scale guy, like I love the shift towards or where the business processes, how you reimagine things and how you think about that. And you're again at a tech conference, but it's really there, and it just but it's also I think a broader theme that we're seeing driven by kind of the fueled by different AI techniques, or it's really just, it's even a chance for people to revisit how you get things done. And we're seeing that across different, which actually I think about now, go back to my day job of what we're thinking about how we serve our clients, how we organize our teams. It's just actually really refreshing to go back to solving a business problem versus running a project or doing an initiative. And again, all those things will get boiled up into that, but it just seems like the overall conversation is around problems and growth and bigger things that are, I think, it's not surprising that we're talking to the more the senior leaders on the C-suite versus specific domain leaders within that stack. And I think that's going to be a really cool thing for not only consultants and AWS and others, but it's interesting for our people. And so I'm excited for that. So I really want to, again, thank you for helping push some of that here locally for us, but it should be really kind of cool as we go forward. So.
Agreed. Yeah, it was good. Even just the format of the way that the roundtables were hosted this year, a couple of them that I sat in, which was great. The opportunity to sit with senior executives across all from technology leaders to consulting leaders to industry leaders on that, and get to share how they're approaching things that are working and things that don't. But like, there's typically a very clear shift to a section of the conversation that included use cases. Everyone wants to know for what you're doing, how are you using that? Please communicate that so everyone can understand the best way to leverage it, which is unique.
And not only is it valuable, like from a selling standpoint, but hey, we can solve this use case for you. But for clients that we work with, we've talked about this before, to get that buy-in, it's a lot more tangible to a business leader to say, these are the problems I'm going to solve. And then you get to the how you're going to do it with, the details of the technology. But that part of that shift too is it's helping leaders get buy-in for the things that they want to do, move quicker.
That's right. Quicker is right. Even it was kind of fun just being there with some of the teams that we have, and just looking at just in the past year, some of the ways that we were accomplish problems in new ways was so much faster and so much better. But the teams themselves were saying like, oh man, just like now with these tools, I think we could do it probably 5 times faster. The things that are coming out. So always thinking about how they can do better and progress. But I think it's an awesome thing, versus casting shade on something. It's like, wow, how can we improve this? How can we be better? I think it's little aspect, I think, of some of the pieces, some of the great leaders that, within Credera that are always looking for more, faster, better.
Yeah. Well, even moving faster, going back to our conversation that we had with Mike Duffy, he had that fascinating example of, he was going into a trailer at one of the construction sites that he was working on and was meeting with the leaders over there. And he was running his tools in the background to capture the notes and then the problems and all that. And the tools were solving the problem while they were capturing those insights. So it allowed him to be more present in the conversation. Because I think a lot of times as humans, when we're hearing problems, and I mentioned this, but I'll mention it again because I think it's very true, is when we listen to somebody and you're listening to their problems, our brain, we can't help it but to immediately start thinking about how we're going to solve it. And you're probably missing some key points in those conversations. So to have something, the ability to run something like that in the background, I think it allows you to really focus on the detail within those problems and not just the problem of the whole.
Yeah, I think that's key. I think, it's a benefit and a curse, right? The fact that like just the nature of a consultant always wants to hear a problem, they want to figure out how to solve it. Sometimes not on the spot is the best time to be doing it, because you do miss stuff. Listening is the key aspect of it. So I think it's a really cool way of that being showcased. I'm not surprised with Mike that he's incredible, and making sure that he has that available. Really cool.
Yeah.
Well, it's going back now to trying to catch up on a week's worth of work this morning after being really perky and fresh after a week in Vegas. But I was working with one of my other teams, and I think I experienced something that I think I'm sure a lot of our clients and a lot of our listeners can experience, which is, where I was working through a normal system roadmap, process roadmap, things we need to do, consolidations of acquisition, right? Normal kind of just what you would say growth related themes. And like the roadmap, the process, the timing just felt so slow and so antiquated. And in my, internally, I'm just like, it's got to be faster than this, right? There's only so many employees, so many things that are active. And you hear all the different constraints, all these different things that are in the way. And I'm just like, I want to just blow the whole damn thing up, and I want to just like use new processes. I want to use new thinking, and which I think speaks to where the tension, and I think my suspicion is my instinct to want to do that was right, and the instinct of obviously the team that was very well prepared, sharing me their detailed analysis was right as well, and we're going to have to find ways to bridge those together. Things are moving too fast. We have to be able to work through that. So again, it's just going to be really interesting next year how companies continue to reimagine and what it looks like. I have a question though for you, Phil, that has nothing to do with next year and nothing to do with what you may have learned. But did you do anything fun in Vegas that you can say or share? And or was it all work for you and nothing besides?
It's fun. But I'd say the vast majority was a lot of meetings, great meetings. I enjoyed every single one, but I've actually never had a trip like that with just so many continuous meetings, like 30 minutes shift type of a deal. Conversations were great. Had to get used to that, within it. So my days were full, typically going from 7:30 till 10 from like the work type of deal, but did get to have some wonderful dinners. I think there's a moment with one of our teams that I think like highlighted. I remember having a picture taken of like even just like the dessert tray that was there. I'm like, this is phenomenal. This is going to be like one of I've never seen anything like it. It's Vegas, it was crazy. So there were moments of like little connection pieces on that I think were excellent. From it, did get a chance to go watch some games in the sports book, as well, which is fun, with teams, team members watching teams play, which is, I love sports. So I thought that was a great thing to be able to go catch for a few moments. Yeah.
Yeah, that was the tricky part was that being in Pacific time, right? You're 2 hours back. And I was talking to our UK friends about this because they're far enough away. I think it's a clean 8 hours where there's not like, I'll get to it, the stuff the next day where I felt like it was all my calls were starting at 6 a.m. So it would be, a hard 6 to about 8 p.m. of, the call starting in the morning, doing stuff for the podcast, then doing stuff with Rio and Alyssa in the ad tech world. And then finally getting able to take a breath about 8 o'clock and I get to enjoy a little bit of time.
It gives you a better appreciation anytime I'm on the West Coast of just like what team members go through constantly. Their days start early and they typically end later, within that. So how they find the balance on that, I think is important. But I think also just how we engage with them and the empathizing to make sure that they have that balance to come. Because a lot of people will try to make sure that, hey, what do I need to do to help out? But I think it needs to go both ways. And those are always moments for me where I'm like, hey, it's a great reminder, so
100%.
That's
good. So Sportbook,
I got to watch like a little bit of a game. Got to see some hockey like the Stars win, which was excellent.
I didn't find out till 3 days later that Tyler Seguin tore his ACL. Because I did not exist on the internet for 4 days.
I found out later because you told me.
Yeah,
so that's how we both were disconnected.
Because, but I'm the least one in the Stars hockey. And dude, what's going on with your football coach?
He better be staying at Iowa State. So that's the big news.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I look at it, and Penn State first was our wrestling coach, which was phenomenal. Now doing a great job at Penn State. Now our football coach. I'm like, we can just fast track this. I think what we can do, they just change their logo to the Cyclones. If that's kind of like what they want. There are some coaches that I'm happy to make some introductions to, but our football coach, Campbell, I don't know, it's progressing really, really fast. It's, you used to watch the chatter from Iowa State meltdown, on just like that guy leaving. Cause he's been phenomenal. Everyone loves him. Just the character and the leadership is like, he's great. So,
well, yeah, I know that we'll get back on task here. Yeah, that's just but like on this one where it was just like obviously fan of Iowa State through you, but like, I find the most if it does happen after the appropriate mourning period, then it's like I am fascinated with what was it about this one. Because he's been able to take anyone he wanted for the last 3 or 4 years, and so it's curious like what will be his why if he does indeed go now.
There's a lot of questions, I hope it doesn't happen, but for my friends that are Penn State alum, he's a great coach, so I would like to know. There's been a couple schools that he's always said is on his list as like, hey, if this ever came up, I would go. I didn't think Penn State was one of those, but maybe it was. Could have been. He did have a short list of it. I can see why. They're, especially the program that they have is great. The support and the things he would have access to on it would be phenomenal. But just loved what he's been able to do with the team. It's a little bit hard. It's a little bit harder to recruit to Ames, Iowa than other places, So, but he's been doing a fantastic job, and they've got incredible talent, on it now. So,
well, I was gonna say, like AI, NIL levels that playing field. As a Red Raider, it's the product of that, right? You had a school that wasn't really existing in the college football world from a competitive standpoint. Sorry for my Red Raider fans, but NIL comes through and all of a sudden everybody's even by what you can bring in.
Yeah, but it does speak, tied back into the world we just spent the last week. It does speak for where culture fits in, though. The quality of leadership development, how that plays in. I mean, that is still a competitive advantage, and obviously in the money talks no matter what industry you're in. But I do think you see that raising up for people like Wise. Some of these areas where they have really strong programs and draw people in. It's probably because of the leaders and the quality they do. And I think we see that in our clients. I think hopefully we see that and our clients see that for us here at Credera. But
yeah, I think there's actually on the Iowa State thing one more time on the culture piece was that there was an interview, I remember, of a player afterwards. They cast some shade on the players like, hey, like your team, like the level of like the number of 5-star players, you just beat that team. Like, how is that? And he's like, well, we might be 3-star players, but we got a 5-star culture. And I think that really does matter, within it. And I think that was one of the things that I really enjoyed because we did have a lot of presence at reInvent from Credera, just to see that culture and to watch team members, like for instance, watching Jack present some of the AI
awesome.
innovation, phenomenal. Like, and just to see that and be the way to see how he thinks or approaches. And I got stories on that from so many different levels, but like, that's the fun part for me is like being with the team members and seeing how fast and always learning, like being in this type of environment. I think that's the thing that feeds me the most is being around such talented people that care. And man, like, wow, I'm learning something every single day. And you throw yourself in reInvent. It's just like magnified so much because there's technology and cool stuff everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, from my perspective, I mean, I got to be around all the leaders, not only at our company, but there were Omnicom leaders and leaders of other companies. I mean, for me, that was like just watching y'all with the interview with Duncan and JB and Kevin. Like, I was just sitting behind the camera there, just fascinated by the conversations that were happening. So that's a thank you to you both for allowing me to tag along and bring the podcast there and do some other stuff. But yeah. 100%.
Well, I think it's just to build a little bit on the Jack, and that was one of my highlights actually for the Credera portion of the week, because I think we get the pleasure of, we're a human capital business, average age is 27 or something like that. So, we get the gift of really cultivating, growing, and developing, young talent into really impactful leaders. And we see that every day. And we have I'm so thankful for the process that we have and the way that people want to come join. But you don't always see that in the play. And so again, even in that playing out that context, and just for, obviously those you don't know, we had one of our young resources who was sharing some of his thinking around how he's using AI use cases, and was able to share with some of the most senior leaders in the firm, and really have it fit into some of the things you can. At least I was sitting behind Duncan in that. And I was just kind of like seeing the mind kind of spin of where it already fits, but but it was just so cool. Like, Jack did an amazing job, and Jack is really talented, but Jack is part of a total cohort of really talented people. And that was, obviously people that don't know him and don't know us wouldn't necessarily realize it. But that was for me, really where I feel like one of my primary jobs in North America here is to grow and cultivate talent. Like, I love that he's here. I love, Ryan, that you were there. I love that, Alyssa was there. And again, all of you at different levels of experience and exposures, but like, that's what's cool, how we grow and develop talent. I had a conversation with Alyssa, which is one of our other emerging leaders in the ad tech space. And she was kind of trying to figure out where she does and fits, and a little nervous. And I'm like, Alyssa, you're like the second or third youngest person in the room. Just be excited that you're here, not because you're here, but because we trust you. You belong in this room with your level of experience and your exposure and the impact that you make. You wouldn't be here if you didn't. So you don't have to question why you're here. You're just, I'm just so excited that you are here and the impact that you're making.
It's good. Yeah. It was fun. It was a great week. I got the benefit of working with our business development team for AWS. So with, Trey, Shuba, Debrav, to have those type of conversations. How do we go to market? How do we make sure we connect in the different areas, the industry leads, the practitioners, meeting with AWS on just understanding like how they go to market, which is, it's huge. The amount of sales that they do is phenomenal. And you get to see like how they've had to break it down and how you need to connect in within that, which is, it takes a lot, but once you kind of get figured out and understand how to plug in, it's highly effective, within it. So.
Well, I know we're going to do a 2026 recap episode with you, Kevin, and we'll get Jake back.
We're
in
going to recap
here.
2026
Sorry,
in 2025.
2025.
All right, I love it.
Sorry,
Predictions.
the brain's still a little tired. I'm not as sharp as I'd like to be.
I don't think anyone coming from Remax, myself in particular, is firing on all cylinders.
My brain was going to, I know we're going to recap 2025 and look forward to 2026.
There we go.
Yes, there it is.
With you, myself, and Jake, who will get back here soon. But Phil, would love to just get some final thoughts on you. We talked about AWS. We learned a lot of things that are coming. 2025 was a nuts year, a lot of change. Just a quick, where do you see 2026 going from a high level, and what excites you about that?
I'm excited the fact that we're actually starting to get value out of AI. In particular, there's a lot of experimentation, gimmicky, to a certain degree. It's like there's some cool stuff that's going, but I think it's really starting to become more of like a little bit more understanding of how to make it more mainstream and be part of the process, but back to solving problems versus just doing cool stuff. Useful trumps innovative any day. So like we're getting to the useful stuff again, and I love that. And it gets to apply it, and it's been accepted in a lot of different areas. Like for us, seeing it like just life sciences is an area that we saw it like heavily used, which is opposite of everything else in the past from a technology adoption. So I think the highlight for me is getting on track with using in ways that are actually going to be impactful for a company on it. And then I think people are also embedding better ways to make sure that they allow for optionality. So versus starting over and throwing over, like it's completely different, type of thing. So I think we kind of get the fact that there's going to be some shifts. So how do you make sure that you can bring in those shifts without throwing out everything that you've done in the past?
Yeah. Two themes just to somewhat to align and build on those. Actually, one is that I think that it's interesting to see this shift again from personal velocity to process velocity. And so, and that goes back to the outcomes working through that. I think we'll continue to see that next year. And I think that I'm just so excited about that, to see that in a real maturity, maybe in some ways. And again, I'm not a very good predictor when it comes to this, faster than I would have thought. The substance of the conversation and how it changed over the last 6-8 months to me was really phenomenal, because it's really an all around, instead of me changing, it's the process change systems. But I found myself pivoting a bit to I had a dinner with one of our clients, and some of our AWS friends were there, and they were talking about a solution that's an industry problem. And so we were talking about a bit of a consortium of sorts of different providers, everything from professional services to technology to, different parts of the value chain within that particular, it was a utilities company that had that power space. But what was fascinating to me is that, they were talking about a problem that's a very common problem in the industry that really does not result in a competitive advantage or not for one. It's something that everyone would benefit from. But the way that was being discussed was that, hey, we're not going to necessarily be able to come up with a deterministic answer, but we're going to be able to have a lot more factors that are going to go into this and consolidate this to give smarter ways for people to make the answer, to choose one that makes sense for their particular scenario. And really kind of in this, thinking about it from a context of like, we're actually going to acknowledge and really part of the solution is going to be baking in the fact that it's just not accurate, but it's going to help the individual thinking and the prompting to be further. And I just thought that was kind of a cool way to think about it, to where I think even start of the year for me, just the way we're always wired, you said, Phil, before, to solve a problem. We're always wired to have a specific answer or have a solution that works through that. And I think, having tools and capabilities that, almost like an analyst report type scenario where you're pushing something forward, but yet it still requires you to put some thought into it and thinking around that. I think that was a healthy way for me to be thinking about something and slightly different.
It's awesome.
Well, it was called reinvent, but I feel re-energized after a week there. And
you think about that one all the way home last night?
Yeah, you got to have a line, right?
Yeah,
Ask Jim Nance. You
got
got to have a line.
See, I'm still tired. I don't have a line yet.
Yeah,
I need a line.
Yeah,
you got about 10 seconds to figure one out. But no, Phil, thank you so much for joining us. Great job this week. It was phenomenal. I know it took a lot of people and a lot of effort to do that. So just shout out to the whole team. I mean, it took everybody to make that thing go as well as it did. And I think overall we'd call it a great success, at least from the Pure Signal point of view. So.
Well, I was so thankful to have you there. I think one of the cool thing is that oftentimes you're there, you don't get an opportunity to see what everyone else is thinking. Not only do we get a view into it, we get to capture it and catalog and broadcast it because of what y'all did. Like that to me was like super powerful, on it, just to get everyone's insights, for that. Cause now next year we can make it better, from that. So you're a part of that, but it was really cool to watch y'all with your conversations and engage and bring out even more thought. Made it better.
Yeah, we'll take those notes and keep running with this thing
sure
as long as they let us.
Make sure you put us in your budget
next
next year.
Say, just heard the line item that's going to be added to ensure that
my
you're
budget,
there.
Yeah,
I was going to say, doesn't it all roll up anyway?
We'll keep going until the mic's turned off, that's for sure, here on the Pure Signal Pod. But Phil, thank you so much. Kevin, amazing as always. Great co-host I have there. And Kevin, we'll get Jake back soon for a 2025 recap and a 2026 look ahead on the next edition of Pure Signal. But for myself, Ryan, for Kevin, for Phil, thank you so much for joining us for this one. We'll see you later. And reminding you to stay bold and stay
curious.
I always forget the curious. Yeah, stay curious.